Yeah, hello and welcome. It's really cool to see that there are a few people interested in chatbots because I'm really excited about chatbots. But before I want to start talking about myself and chatbots and so on, I really want to thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure here. It's my first time at the Vox Days here in Belgrade. And I really want to thank the organizers and the volunteers and all the people who made this event happen. So I think we should start this talk with a huge applause for all the organizers. Thank you. You guys are awesome. So let's start with who am I? Or not. Technology, fuck yeah. I'm David. I'm the founder of a company called Oratio. It's a little startup in Vienna. And it's a tool which enables businesses to offer customer service via mobile messengers, such as WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Telegram, and Kik. And even though we are a pretty young startup, we're already happy to have great customers, like Uber, Danone, or Seek Asia. And since we're in the messaging space, I started to look into chatbots about 1.5 years ago. And since then, I developed around 10 chatbots and services around chatbots, with altogether about 40,000 users. But let's start, what is a chatbot? A chatbot is a computer program designed to simulate an intelligent conversation with one or more humans via conversational interface. So it's pretty easy, right? You write in natural language to a service, it answers you, and you can do stuff with it. You might remember this guy, this Clippy from Windows 95. It was this like really annoying thing which popped up in Microsoft Word, and it always popped up when you didn't need it. But anyway, it's not a real chatbot, but it was kind of a first virtual assistant which tried to assist you through human language. It was kind of smart because based on the context, it could help you. Like, for example, I see you opening a file. Do you want to print it, whatsoever? And it spoke in kind of natural language. I have no idea why this clicker is not working. So, chatbots are not new. They exist since the 90s, especially like if you have a look into IRC, which was pretty popular like in the 90s and early 2000s. There were a lot of chatbots where you can like interact with these bots and, you know. So why is this big hype happening right now? And I found 3 points why now chatbots are really getting better and why now is the time to get into chatbots. And the first thing is AI and machine learning and big data. Because there was lots of progress, the algorithms got a lot better, and you can see that, for example, in the Facebook newsfeed, in the Google search. They have like really good algorithms to give you really good recommendations based on your history, based on your preferences, and stuff like that. And we also made a lot of progress in natural language understanding. So we can process natural language, parse sentences, and understand the intents of the user. So we can see from a sentence, what does the user mean with this sentence? And it's also based on the context and the history of the chat history, combined with AI and machine learning. And one more thing, the most important one, it's messaging apps. Messaging apps are huge already. They have a lot of users. Everyone uses mobile messengers. Everyone has a messenger account. And in 2015, this happened. The 4 biggest messaging apps outpaced the 4 biggest social media networks by monthly active users. So there are more active users on the 4 biggest messaging apps, which are WhatsApp, WeChat, Facebook Messenger, and Viber, than on traditional social media, like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter together. So really, let that sink again. There are more users on mobile messengers than on social networks. And people use them intensely. They have higher engagement, and it's a super personal channel, and they use it in their everyday life. As for example, Facebook, there are a lot of people who just look into Facebook 1 or 2 times a week, or even less. But mobile messaging is like a basic need for humans, and they use it every day. And I also want to share this graphic, which is really insane, because especially if you look into Malaysia, Brazil, and Taiwan, and emerging markets, people spend up to 50 minutes per day in a messaging app, and that's really insane. And especially these messaging apps, these are major platforms for a young audience, especially for people less than 25 years. And a recent study in Germany, for example, revealed that the young audience, they prefer WhatsApp over phone calls. And they think it's rude if you call them without prior knowledge. So they prefer messaging apps instead of text messaging or phone calls. And just here to point it out again, it's more than 50 minutes per day in a messaging app. And I'm not the only one who knows this. You know this smiling guy, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, he also says, messaging is the one few thing that people do more than social networking. Again, people use mobile messaging more than social networking, and it's the most used feature on a smartphone. And he knows what he's talking about because he's not only the founder of Facebook, the biggest social network, he's also owner of Instagram, one of the 4 biggest social networks, and he owns the 2 biggest messaging networks, WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. And there's another thing about mobile messaging apps, because 65% of the people download on average 0 apps per month. That's literally nothing. And another 17% only download 1 to 2 apps, and that's really insane. And I really want to point it out, like 0 apps, 65% of the users download apps. And that's because the app downloads are stagnated and the app market is super saturated. And you can see that with iOS, it's like cleaning out the app store because there's so many dead apps which are not developed anymore, and they want to clean it out. And it's really hard. I mean, if you develop an app, it's really hard to survive in the app store because you compete against big apps like Snapchat, Instagram, and many other apps. And also, if you develop an app, I mean, it's super expensive because you have to develop on multiple platforms. So you have to be on iOS, you have to be on Android. And it's not you only develop one product because you develop 2 products because the UI and the UX is completely different. And you cannot just port like an iOS app to Android and expect the users to use it the same way because an Android user has a different user experience than an iOS user. And also, you're limited to the frameworks and the languages from Android SDK or from iOS. And even if you manage that someone downloads your app, it's hard to get on the home screen. And this is where I want to be as an app, because these are the apps which people actually use. And this is also the place where messaging apps already live. And there's probably not only one messaging app on the home screen, but more likely there are 2 or 3. In my case, for example, it's 6 messaging apps. But yeah, again, then are the people who say, okay, people are not downloading app, but we're still the mobile web, right? We have the mobile web, yeah? No, not really. Again, this guy, remember him from earlier, Mark Zuckerberg, he said in 2012, our biggest mistake was betting too much on HTML5. And there's a reason for that, because the mobile web has always failed to deliver. I was a really big fan of HTML5, and I still are, but the problem is your mobile web browser or your mobile web does not live on the home screen, because you have to open your browser first, then you have a few tabs open normally, then you have to open a new tab, and it's super confusing. And also, you have a lot of problem with performance, because mobile web performance is not that good as a native app on a platform. And I mean, there are ways around, like you can use CSS3, hardware acceleration, you can use web workers, you can use local storage, but the people don't do it. And if you don't do it, you have like a really shitty website. And that's why the mobile web is really a crappy place to hang out. And this is why existing platforms are becoming more important, and chatbots are the way to go. And that's what I already said, like apps, it's super hard to get it right. The UI is hard, UX is hard, especially because you have to develop for at least 2 platforms, maybe 3 or 4 or whatsoever. And the web is really not a good place. And one of the best examples for me is Airbnb. I really like Airbnb. I book a lot of trips on Airbnb, but when I do it, I'm on my desktop laptop. But then when I leave to the airport and get off of the plane, I normally check Airbnb, did my host send me a message, or where's the exact location, and then I open the mobile website. And then when I think it's finally loaded, there's this huge pop-up around the whole screen saying, please download our app. And they're like, no, I don't want to download this app because I just want to check this one thing. And then I click it away and I think, okay, they will remember it, I clicked it away, but next time I open it again. And then you always have like this little button or this little banner in the top like, please download our app. Yeah, and I know why, because they spend a lot of money to develop this great app on Android and iOS, and also they want to send you notification, which is also not possible on mobile web. So yeah. And this is even further. If you think of news websites or e-commerce websites, that's even worse because you open an article, then they are loading a lot of ads and analytics and stuff like that, and everything is super slow, and it takes like ages until you can finally read the article. And then if you start scrolling, it's like the next pop-up, please subscribe to our newsletter. Anyway, that's why I really love Facebook. I mean, I know it's a walled garden, but it's super performant. It's performant on my smartphone app, on the desktop. I have this news feed. I have instant articles without ads. And furthermore, I'm always logged in. And chatbots, they combine the best of them because they are super personal. You're always logged in. They are not slowing down, and they're already native on every platform, which is pretty huge. And as you can see, this leads to a platform shift. Back in 2008, when iOS opened their platform with third-party developers, their iOS App Store, people were shifting from websites to mobile apps and prefer to use mobile apps in their daily life. And now the shift is happening again because the app market is saturated, app downloads are stagnating, and people want to get like a new experience but don't want to download new apps. And messaging apps are already there. And then there's this guy. You might not know him, but he's Ted Livingston, founder of Kik, a messaging network. And he says chat apps will come to be thought of as the new browsers, and bots will build a new website. And this is the beginning of a new internet. And it's really think of it, it's the beginning of a new internet right now, and it's happening right now. And it already has started, not here, but somewhere else. Does someone know this logo? Who knows this logo? At least 2 or 3. That's WeChat. It's the biggest messaging app in China. And China has around 1.4 billion inhabitants. And the smartphone penetration is about 65%, which leads to around 900 million smartphone users. And this app has already 806 million monthly active users. That's around 80% of Chinese people who have access to the internet are using WeChat. And a bit about the history of WeChat. It was launched in 2011 by Tencent. It's the company behind WeChat. And before WeChat was that big, the biggest messaging app, desktop messaging app, was QQ, which was also developed by Tencent. And Tencent developed in 2003 an app for feature phones, and in 2008 for smartphones. So they already had the biggest messaging app on smartphones in China and still decided to build a new, completely mobile app. And that's because they realized how game-changing the smartphone actually is. And that was a really smart decision. They hired a completely new team and built a truly mobile platform instead of just building a better, smarter QQ app with all their desktop legacy shit. And they really pioneered this app within an app model. So they opened their messaging platform to let other people build apps on top of this messaging app. So you can build an app in an app, and that's really smart. And here, for example, you can see that's booking an appointment with a doctor from left to right. But it even got further, because they said, if you have that many people, let's introduce payments. So they introduced WeChat Pay, which made it possible for people to transfer money to their friends, to pay online. And right now, about 300 million people already enter their credit card details in WeChat. That's around 40% of the WeChat users. And they can send money to friends. They can order a Didi Chuxing, which is kind of the Chinese Uber, and eventually was bought by Uber. And then they said, okay, it's pretty cool. Now we can pay online in WeChat. But then they said, do you know what would be cool if you can pay with WeChat in an offline store? So they went to offline stores and introduced WeChat Pay. And right now they have more than 300,000 offline retail stores where they accept WeChat Pay. So you can walk into an offline shop and pay with your messaging app. And that's really cool. And they even got further into the physical world. For example, this little toy is called Mon Mon by a Chinese company called Dan Dan Man. And it's a Bluetooth-enabled toy which is directly connected to your WeChat account. And parents can send messages to this toy, and it's instantly played to the children, and the children can then answer by pushing the belly button. And then a voicemail is sent to the parent's WeChat account. So, what about the rest of the world? I mean, as I already told before, and as you've seen, like the big messenger usage in Taiwan, Brazil, and so on, you see emerging markets are paving the road. And in front of that, it's South America, Africa, Asia, and so on. And we are here in Europe and the US, we're the last movers, because in our world, the mobile phone is still a second-class citizen, because we prefer to use laptops, we have fiberglass internet, and you have to imagine that there are people coming online for the first time in their life with a smartphone. And the first thing they normally download is a messaging app because they want to stay in touch with their friends and their family. So, a big quiz. Can you guess the country with the highest mobile banking usage in 2013? Anyone? China. It's Kenya, followed by Botswana and Tanzania. And they don't even have smartphones. Yeah? It's percentage. And they don't even have smartphones, they used feature phones. And there was this service introduced called M-Pesa. So you could go to a local agent, transfer some money to your M-Pesa account, and then you could send this money to another person with another M-Pesa account. And this was really a big thing in Africa because, I mean, here in Serbia or in Austria or wherever in Europe, every 500 meters you have an ATM or a bank where you can go there and get some money. But in Africa, it's different because there's like huge ways into the new bank, the next bank or like the next ATM. But also for all the countries who already have like a higher smartphone penetration, can you guess the country with the highest usage of mobile banking smartphone apps in 2014? It's still not China, it's Indonesia, followed by China and Thailand. And that's really interesting because you think of Indonesia just like one country somewhere in Southeast Asia, but if you look at the inhabitants, it's like almost as many people in the US, and that's just one market. Indonesia is one market with almost as many people as in the US. But anyway, even though we don't have that many services on messaging apps, messaging is still the #1 communication channel for our personal life. And businesses also want to get into these messaging apps to offer their services on messaging app. For example, like today in the morning, I was booking a taxi via Viber, which was pretty cool. So, messaging apps are catching up. And does someone know this guy? It's Chris Messina. He's super famous for being the inventor of the hashtag. And he's also known as the Ryan Gosling of Silicon Valley. And he's responsible for the messenger integration of Uber. And in 2015, he said he termed the hashtag ConfCom, which meant conversational commerce. And he said 2016 will be the year of conversational commerce. And then it started, the race to become the WeChat of the West. And it started out in June 2015 when Telegram launched their first bot platform, followed by Slack, which launched their App Store in December 2015, and then Microsoft launched the Skype bot platform at their Build conference, and they also launched the Microsoft Bot Framework, which lets you build on different platforms. Then, short after that, Kik made their bot API public for everyone and introduced their bot shop where you could discover bots on Kik messaging app, and Line opened their private beta for their bot API. And then there was this big boom in April at the F8 conference, where Messenger said, we are opening our messaging app for third-party integrations. And that was really massive. That was like where the whole hype started, because people were thinking, okay, if this guy, Mark Zuckerberg, like the guru of social media and social messaging, if he says we want to open our messaging platform, there must be something, right? But there are also other messaging apps. You probably all know WhatsApp, and they still didn't have an official API, but earlier this year, exactly in January, they announced they will open their platform for businesses. And around 2 or 3 weeks ago, they changed their privacy policy, and it's very likely that there are coming features to WhatsApp this year. And there's this last app, Viber. They haven't disclosed anything, but I'm sure there will be something pretty soon. And just to get you a feeling about all the messaging apps, for example, Telegram has 100 million monthly active users. Slack has around 3 million daily active users. Skype also has 300 million active users. For Kik, I couldn't get any number about monthly active users, but they have 200 million registered users. Line has around 220 million monthly active users. Messenger already has 1 billion, WhatsApp has 1 billion, and Viber has around 250 million. And do you still remember back in 2008 when iOS launched their App Store, how many users you could reach? It was only 13 million. And with the release of the platform, bot platforms in 2016, it could reach up to 2.5 billion users, which is a massive amount of users to reach with messaging apps. And even more, there are even more reasons why this is a really great opportunity to get into chatbots. I mean, think of apps. If you want to download an app, you go to the App Store, you search for the app, then you have to remember your password, and many people don't get that. Then you have to download it, which takes up space in the device, and then you finally manage to download this app. Then you open this app, and the first thing you have to do, register. And that's really annoying. And that's where chatbots really comes in super handy, because you have less friction to start a conversation with a bot. And if you're starting this conversation, you're already logged in. And you can really use them on the fly. So for example, instead of downloading an app to generate a meme, you can just text the meme generator bot and create a meme directly within your messaging app. When I have a pizza restaurant or find a pizza restaurant nearby, just send a location and a pizza emoji, and it shows the places around you. And this is another success story. This is an app called Swell, and it's made by some Viennese friends of mine, and they launched last year in 2015. And it's a super simple app. It's a social network where you can upload 2 pictures and then ask the community to help you to make a decision. For example, in this case, what should I wear tonight? Like this number A, the top one, or number B, the second one. And they were really struggling to get people using the app. I mean, it is 2015, and you introduce a new social network, and then you need people downloading the app and use the app. That's really hard. And the target audience were teenagers and preferably girls. So I sat together with them about half a year ago, and I told them, hey, why are you not building a messenger bot or a Kik bot? Because it's probably a great opportunity. I mean, even though if you just use it as a second channel to get a few more users. So they did. So they created a messenger bot and this Kik bot, and it just sends you like, you start a conversation with the bot, and it sends you the picture, and then you can vote with A or B. And if you want to create if you create a question, you just upload 2 photos, add a title, and then it's uploaded to the community, and all the other people can vote. And then this happened. Within 1 month, they got about 100,000 users. And this was about 2 months ago. And currently, they are 300,000 users, whereas 250,000 are at Kik and 50,000 are on Messenger. So you might ask how to make a great bot, because everyone right now hopefully want to make a really great bot. But first, let's distinguish between the 2 kinds of bots. There's this conversational bot, and there's a transactional bot. A conversational bot is a bot which understands or which can process natural language and also can understand this natural language. And it interacts in a human way. And most of the times, it has some kind of personality. A good example for this is Siri or Amazon Alexa. But the thing about conversational bots, it's really hard to get right because AI, it's not like the super easy stuff to get it right. It's really hard. And big companies like Google and IBM, they're struggling with that. And also the consumers are super spoiled because they think AI, I mean, it must be huge because Google defeated the best Go player and IBM Watson won Jeopardy. So if I text this bot, it must be super smart. And also there's this evolution thing, because the human species is the only one which is able to talk. So we expect someone who can speak to be smart. But you also have transactional bots. And these are kind of comment-oriented. So you just send them comments, not really natural language. And it's a form-like interaction. Just a Q&A step by step. And you can make use of rich UI elements. Example for that is like the meme generator bot I've shown you today. So I want to get a bit into what are all the different UI elements you have available. This, for example, is Facebook Messenger. You see, like on the left, this is a template where you can create an image and have a title and a description. And you can also add call to actions with buttons, like on the second one, or send order confirmations or tracking confirmations. And you can also assemble them to a carousel. So you can give them like up to 10 options within one answer, so they can scroll through and see like what is the best option for me or whatsoever. And they also introduced a persistent menu. There's a menu on the top, on the bottom left, which is always available to the user. So you can always click on it and see the options for this menu. And they also introduced quick replies, which is a super handy way for giving the user suggestions, what he can do. For example, this is a good question. It's pick a size. And there is where the quick replies come in super handy. Because if someone asks me, pick a size, what is it? Is it medium? Is it M? Is it 46? I don't know. But with the buttons, you can suggest them, what do you expect? And right now they introduced, like I think 2 weeks ago, the ability to add a web view. So on the right, you see a web view. So you can actually use HTML elements to enrich your bot. But also other platforms have also great UI elements. This, for example, is Telegram. In my opinion, still the most advanced bot API because they've been there a really long time. And you can, for example, have these slash comments, which are commonly known from Slack. But you can also have adjustable buttons. And you can change them at every response. And one thing I really love about Telegram, as a messenger, you only have one-to-one conversations. But on Telegram, you can add the bot to a group, and furthermore, they have inline bots. So in an ongoing conversation, you just call the bot like add GIF, put in a search phrase, and then the GIFs pops up, and you can send it directly to the conversation. So you can make use of the bot during an ongoing conversation, and that's pretty cool. And they also have some kind of quick replies, and a pretty cool feature, which is editing a message. For example, as you see on the right, there's this message, and then there are these buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, until 85. And the cool thing is, if you click one of these buttons, it's not like they're sending another message with the same buttons. No, they're just showing on this message the different message, so you can get some kind of paging within this app. And that's really cool. And for Skype, they recently introduced also these cards you already know from Facebook Messenger, and these order confirmation templates, and yeah. And then there's Kik, which is a bit sad because they only have buttons, same as for Line, but I'm sure there's still more to come. And the last messaging network is Slack. I think all of you know the slash comments in Slack, and they recently also introduced buttons. Yeah, that's all the messaging networks. But to get back how to make a great bot, it doesn't need to be exclusive a transactional or conversational bot, because you can actually combine the best of them. And that unleashes a great potential, because, as this smart girl says, messaging has the potential to be the command line for normal humans. When I first read it, it was really like mind-blowing, because actually what the command line is, it's a super dumb chatbot. It just understands a few comments. But if you combine human language or natural language processing and understanding with the transactional chatbot, you get a super smart command line interface, which can understand some basic human language. And then you have the power of the whole internet within your messaging app. And this is what really makes a great bot. And I also picked some principles of bot design, which are kind of suggestions how to make a great bot. These are not really rules, so we can obey the principles without being bound to them. And the first one is, don't pretend to be a human. Many tried, all of them failed. And there's a reason for that, because no one so far passed the Turing test. And if you try to pretend to be a human, people will realize pretty quickly that it's not a human, and they get really pissed. So don't do that. And know your audience and know your platform. As I mentioned earlier, the startup Swell, they have 250,000 users on Kik and only 50,000 on Messenger. But Messenger is 10 times bigger than Kik. That's because Kik is the right audience for their app, because Kik is normally used by teenies in the US and Canada. And 4 out of 10 teenies use Kik as main communication channel. So this is like really the right audience for their tool. Then there's WeChat, which is actually just bound to China. And even if you download WeChat here, first of all, you cannot make any of these features which are available in China. And second one, you mostly find only Chinese people. And then you have Line, which is available in, or like have the main market in Japan and South Korea and the surrounding area. And Telegram is super huge in Russia and in Middle East, which is interesting because 20% of their 100 million monthly active users are living in the Middle East. And it's also becoming popular in Europe right now. And Slack, for example, is a good example how I can use a messaging service if you do some kind of office application or business application, because Slack is the place where people live during their working time. That's another one, always provide an escape hatch. Chatbots are pretty new for developers and also for end users. The end users, they don't really know what is a chatbot or how to use it. And sometimes they get stuck. And the worst thing which can happen is to get stuck in a messaging app, because there's no way back, there's no back button, there's no home button, and you can only leave the conversation. So you can use like persistent menus as a way out or start over the conversation so that the user doesn't end in a dead end. And you should also listen to keywords like cancel or stop to start the bot over again. Use structured input when possible. As I mentioned earlier, with what's the size, it's really hard to know what does the bot expect. Does it expect medium, a number, whatsoever? So user doesn't need to guess the answer, and you can save them from a bunch of typing. And one another thing, it's a really, really important thing. Messaging is still a private and intimate thing. Other than social media, where like it's almost public and you have more one-to-many conversations or many-to-many conversations, messaging is still very private and mostly one-on-one. So you should follow the rules of social behavior. For example, don't subscribe someone automatically to your chatbot and send them news, because if I'm chatting with a friend, I don't expect from them to just subscribe me. I want them to ask me before, and the chatbot to do the same. And great experience starts with great onboarding. This is not only a thing for chatbots, that's a general thing, but so many people still don't get it right. I've already seen so many bots, they start with a message saying, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah bot, ask me about a restaurant nearby. And then I ask him, okay, I want pizza in Vienna. But there is no pizza in Vienna, because it only works in San Francisco and Copenhagen. But how do I know? Also, you don't do that like in other services, in apps or websites. If you have a website and the user logs in, you don't just show him like your application and say, there are buttons and menus, so we'll figure out how to use it. No, you onboard them. Okay? You take it on your hand and go with him through the application step by step. And that's the same for a chatbot. And a chatbot is even better for that because you have like this Q&A style and you can guide him through the process, and that's pretty cool. And in general, just reapply all the rules of service design, because in the end, the chatbot should design to make the consumer's life easiest and not the developer's life. And be nice. As mentioned, messaging is still a very personal space, so there's no need for attract attention within the messaging app. So you don't have to shout out, get a 15% ticket now, or discount now, because you can just ask him, hey, I found this voucher, do you want to have a 15% discount? So just be nice, because you're already in a one-on-one conversation in a really personal space. And even more, give the bot a bit more personality. So just don't be like, I'm a program, just give him like a name or something like that. So I'm already almost at the end of the slides, but I still have some time. So I want to mention a few other things. Many people ask me, what are great categories for a chatbot? And it's actually almost everything which works good in the App Store. A super use case, for example, is news. When Facebook Messenger launched a bot platform, they launched together with CNN a news bot, and it's working quite well for them. I also talked to the guys from Washington Post, and they said they have a 5 to 10 times higher engagement on their chatbot than on their mobile website, which is pretty huge. Another big use case is e-commerce. For example, also at the Facebook Messenger launch, they launched a 1-800-flower bot where you can buy flowers within messaging app. And e-commerce is a pretty cool thing, and it's a really important thing, because most of their mobile e-commerce websites, they're pretty shitty. And they're super slow. And most of the small shop owners, they don't have a possibility to create an app, because creating an app is super expensive. And a chatbot is a perfect place where you can offer your products, let them browse through your products, and so on. Also games. Games is really huge. There was like this 1980 adventure game called Zork. They ported it to Messenger, and it's super successful. Also, it's a great way, for example, for dating. There's on Telegram, there's this hot or bot, which is actually kind of Tinder. You just send it in your profile pic, and then you can browse through other people who are nearby, and then say yes, no, same as Tinder. And also, another big thing is monetizing bots. Facebook Messenger already started testing payment in the US, and which means it's trying really to become this WeChat of the West. And it has already a huge customer base, and if you have people enter the credit card details, the friction to buy something online, it's way lower. But some examples to monetize your bot is sponsored content, same as BuzzFeed does. Sending affiliate links, as we've seen, for example, in the Mika bot, where it recommends pizza places. You just can put one affiliate link there. Lead generation and sales is also a good topic. Or retail bots, as I mentioned earlier with e-commerce. Or just services around bots, like analytics service, messaging, tracking, and so on. So if you go home tonight, I want you to take away a few things. And this is, messaging is massive. And we here in Europe, we are the last movers. And it's only the beginning right now. So go home and develop bots. But before I stop talking, I still want to announce something. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from Vienna. I have this company, Ratio, and we are organizing the ChatbotConf 2016 in Vienna in 2 weeks. We have speakers from Facebook Messenger, from Line, from Slack, from Viber, from IBM Watson, from VDI, from Microsoft Bot Framework. It will be a really cool event with about 400 attendees and more than 10 speakers. And since you guys are really awesome, I want to give you a 10% discount for the first 5 people who buy a regular ticket. The voucher code is VOXDays Belgrade. And I also want to announce one more thing about our community. A few weeks ago, I created this community called Botspot Vienna to draw a bit attention on what's going on in Vienna and to explore a bit like, what do we do in Vienna? We are organizing bot meetups every month with around 50 to 100 people. In June, we organized the first bots hackathon. There's definitely coming another one. A friend of mine started the first European chatbots incubator in Vienna, and there's also this ChatbotConf happening. And these are only just a few startups who are in the messaging space or in the chatbot space in Vienna. You have, for example, Yodel Talk, it's a Seedcamp-backed company. You have Runs, the messaging app. You have Meets, the hipster chatbot. You have Grape, it's a business messaging service similar to Slack. You have Monstyle, it's an e-commerce app where you can buy products online, and Oratio, and many more. So if you ever want to do something with bots, we would be happy if you connect with us at Botspot Vienna, and if you're around in Vienna, I'm super happy to connect you with all the guys. That's it so far. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hi, amazing talk, first of all. I'm a proponent of the chatbot rate as of now and as of before, actually. And I have some knowledge in the area, but I would like to ask you to elaborate more on the segmentation on the market, because we still have so many contending messaging platforms that are fighting for the user's attention. So as a business owner or as a platform owner, would it be viable to go into the market right now and develop for all the platforms, or just wait a little bit so they can conglomerate like a little bit more, make it massive, and then go for like 1 or 2 platforms as in the app business, basically?
That's actually a really good question, but this, in my opinion, that's always a trade-off. You have like, either you wait until everyone figured everything out, and then you build for the right platform, but then you're not among the first users or first movers. Or you jump into something, risk something, and then you can be successful, but also have the risk to be a first mover. Because being a first mover is always a risk. But you can also use, for example, things like Microsoft Bot Framework, where you just develop the business logic of one bot, and this bot framework takes care of deploying it to several platforms. For example, they integrated Skype, Telegram, Messenger, Line, and Kik, as far as I know. So you just have one bot logic, then talk to the Microsoft Bot Framework API, and they distribute everything to the right network. But there are also some other services to do that.
Thank you for that. I would like to add one more question, if you would elaborate more on the topic of localization, basically, because we're in Serbia right now. I personally am from Bulgaria. These are small languages. These are languages with virtually non-existent NLP integration. We don't have any NLP tool sets that are viable and can be implemented easily. So when it comes to languages and localization, this is a huge hot potato for developers. So if you go like English only for the US market, or in the Asian markets, or in the Russian markets, it's okay. But for smaller languages, it's going to be a really a race in the desert.
Yeah, that's a true story. The thing about this is, I mean, doing natural language processing on your own is really hard, and I wouldn't do that. So I would use a service like VDI or API AI to do that for me. And I mean, I don't know about Bulgaria or Serbia, but as far as I know, VDI has already 70 or 80 languages included, and Facebook is really pushing to have all languages available. That's all I know.
Thank you.
So it's me being a bit cheeky. What does your Twitter username mean?
It's Pi.
Pi. Oh, there you go. You see, I'm jet lagged there. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other question, I will still be around. I will also be here tomorrow. I will be wearing this hat so you can remember me, and I hope to see you afterwards for a beer. Thank you very much.